Asato ma sadgamaya tamasho ma jyotirghamaya mrityorma amrudam ghamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
On the way to the home of Swamiji's host, Mr. Giri, he showed us this Sarvayana high school, where many years ago he received training as these small boys do now. Though everything was new and exciting to the American devotees traveling with Swamiji, he looked on the familiar scene with a beautiful gaze of knowing and loving. In the traditional way, Swamiji was welcomed to Mr. Giri's home. For several hours he sat with the members of his family and longtime devotees who gathered there, including his son Nanjapa, his uncle Mr. Krishnaswami Gaundar, and of course, his auntie. Until late into the night they were content to just be in his presence and hear his consoling words and listen to him tell of some of his work in America.
There is a divine plan behind everything. If we allow ourselves to be used by that unseen force as good instruments, many things can happen in a mysterious, miraculous way. If we interfere with that plan by introducing our own plan, the egocentric plan, tension will be created. For in any event, ultimately the divine plan will win out.
Before they left, Swamiji brought out some chewing gum packets that he had brought for the young children. It is a rare commodity there, and they were so happy to receive it from his hands. The next morning, Swamiji visited the home of his uncle, Mr. Krishnaswami Gaundar, with whom as a young man he once had an automotive business partnership. As he was leaving, he stopped to show us this shrine to Lord Ganesh, the elephant-headed aspect of God, near the front entranceway. Ganesh is the son of Lord Shiva and his consort Parvati. He is worshipped first in any ceremony, and his picture or image is kept near the entranceway to protect the home. During the trip, we had the great fortune of visiting many ashrams and holy places significant to Swamiji's early life. Accompanied by his older brother, Sri Anachiyappa, Swamiji was taken to this Perur Tamil college, where he was met by Sri Santalinga Swamigal, who is now the head of it. It is in this very hall that Swamiji, as a young boy of 8, delivered his first lecture on Ahimsa to a congregation of scholars and saintly men from the lap of a great saint. Sri Santalinga Swamigal was the 17th century founder of this madam or monastery, which bears his name. He is a revered spiritual master, well known for his beautiful Tamil poetry. During this trip, they requested Swamiji to speak to the hundreds of Tamil poetry students in the college. The present Sri Santalinga Swamigal, who is himself a great Tamil poet and author, introduced him.
Always try to serve others. Don't even call it helping. Call it service, because you are benefited by that. If a man begs from you and you give him something, you shouldn't think that you are helping him. Instead, he is helping you. Hasn't he given you an opportunity to express your generosity?
On leaving, Swamiji was surrounded by devotees and friends, including this gentleman who remembered him well from his school days. Not far from the college and ashram is the Patishwara temple of Lord Nataraja, the dancing Shiva. It is at this holy shrine that Swamiji years ago served as temple manager. He is well known and respected by the present temple officials, who always welcome him with special honors and music. At the main shrine of the Shiva Lingam, the priest offers a worship to the deity. Normally, devotees are made to stand at least 15 to 20 feet away from the deity behind metal railings. But here, as everywhere, Swamiji with his devotees are brought right before the deity at the inner sanctum. Most Hindu temples have an inner courtyard around the central altars, and it is the custom to walk clockwise around, paying homage to the different aspects of the Lord residing in various shrines along the way.
There are not many gods. There is only one. And that one has no name, no form, and no place. He is everywhere. And in actuality, he is neither a he, nor a she, nor it. But such abstractions cannot be grasped by our limited minds. Only when the mind expands to a greater capacity can we understand the infinite things. That's why, according to our capacity, the Infinite One reduces himself to a lower level.
At another altar, one aspect of the Divine Mother is worshipped. At last, the presiding deity of Lord Nataraja himself is reached. It is before this image of the dancing Shiva, Swamiji would often sit and meditate throughout the night when he was temple manager here. Lord Nataraja symbolizes the 5 actions of God. In his hands he holds the symbol of the first sound of creation and the fire of destruction. One hand is raised in the symbol of protection, while the extended arm and leg symbolized his veiling or Mayic nature, and shows that by going to the feet of the Lord, we obtain his grace. In the courtyard, Swamiji was welcomed by the temple elephant. Years ago, he once saved the same elephant from overwork and cruel treatment, and everyone was amazed to see that he clearly remembered Swamiji with great affection. Another ashram dear to Swamiji's life and family is the Gaumata Medalayam, now headed by Sri Sundara Swamigal, who is walking next to him here. He insisted that Swamiji visit the ashram grounds again, where Swamiji had spent much time as a young boy. Sri Ramananda Swamigal was the founder of this ashram 3 generations ago, and was a close relative to Swamiji's family. He was a great devotee of Lord Muruga, and was known to have performed many miracles. Living in seclusion, he came out only once yearly to bless his disciples with his presence. His chief disciple was Sri Kundaswami Swamigal, a great Tamil language poet and author. He was also a great Siddha yogi who performed many miracles, and devotees claim he visited them spiritually to save them from accidents and guide them in their spiritual practices. He can be said to be the first spiritual teacher for Swamiji when he was a young boy. Sri Sundara Swamigal, the current head of the ashram, is the 3rd generation in this line. It is told that there are 1,008 temples in South India, and many, like this Madhudamalai, are devoted to Lord Muruga, who is believed to dwell in the hills. The vehicle of this deity is the peacock, which are allowed to freely roam the temple courtyards. A well-known story in these parts is about one of Swamiji's ancestors. He was an ardent devotee of Lord Muruga, and he often came to this temple to meditate for hours. One day he awoke to find that he had been locked inside for the night. He felt hungry and he called on the Lord to provide him with food. Soon the temple priest entered with food from the temple kitchen, which is kept as an offering to the deity. After the meal, he resumed his meditation. When morning came, the priest unlocked the shrine and was surprised to see him sitting there. He apologized for locking him in and immediately offered him food. The devotee soon realized that the priest had not fed him that night. It had been Lord Muruga himself. Four of Swamiji's relatives and friends accompanied he and 3 American devotees on a 6-day car trip through the south, visiting holy shrines and more places of significance to Swamiji's life. The southernmost tip of India is called Cape Comorin. Here there is a famous temple devoted to Mahatma Gandhi. On a small island not far off the coast is a temple dedicated to Swami Vivekananda. As a wandering monk, Swamiji had spent some time here in meditation. Palani Hill Temple is one of the most revered holy places in the south. It is here that Swamiji's mother came to Sadhu Swamigal. She received a mantra from him for meditation prior to Swamiji's birth. By repeating the mantra, she prayed to give birth to a spiritual son. It was here also that Swamiji came as a young man to worship and undergo intense and leave it by the door. Swamiji stayed in this house for a long time in complete Returning from the south, we briefly visited this Ramakrishna mission in Tiruparaitarai. It is here that Swamiji studied under Swami Chidbhavanandaji and took brahmachari or pre-monkhood initiation. He was given the name Sri Samba Shiva Chaitanya, as he was known until he took sannyas and became Swami Satchidananda. The resident monks were overjoyed at his visit. Here Swamiji is welcomed to the Vedanta Ashram by Sri Arivananda Swamigal. As most everywhere in the south, he is well known and dearly loved by the people. They arranged this outside talk, and afterwards served wonderful tender coconut water. The Coimbatore Divine Life Society was overflowing with people who came to hear him speak. Years ago, Swamiji founded this branch of the Divine Life Society. The program was so very beautiful. After a wonderful bhajan and chanting, Swamiji spoke, and several of the American disciples were requested to say a few words and lead some chants. Soon after, the films of Swamiji's work in America, such as the Woodstock Festival and the Yoga Ecumenical Retreat, were shown to a captive audience.
In the spiritual life, all paths lead to the same place.
Mr. G.D. Naidu was so happy to see Swamiji again. He is well known as a technical genius, and as a young man, Swamiji worked in his factories. Swamiji recalled how on his last visit here, Mr. Naidu had offered him a ride from one function to another, but instead had tried to kidnap him to his house for a few quiet minutes alone. Swamiji's sons and relatives gathered for a puja or worship at his feet as he entered the home of his brother-in-law. The worship of great saints is a traditional way of showing great reverence and devotion to the divine manifesting in human form. By worshiping the feet, the devotee expresses his own humility, thus making himself receptive to receive the divine grace. The nearby town of Belangiri welcomed him with native drums and horns. Swamiji gave an outdoor talk this night, and they requested him to come back and set up an ashram there. Longtime devotee Sri Krishna Chettiar insisted that Swamiji and students attend the wedding of his daughter.
Thank you.
सर्वमङ्गलमाङ्गल्ये शिवे सर्वार्थसाधिके शरण्ये त्र्यम्बके गौरी नारायणी नमोस्तुते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। सर्वाभीष्टसिद्धिरस्तु सुमङ्गली भव।
They walk round the canopy, and their first act together as man and wife is to go before the temple of the Lord. In Uti, high in the southern hills, Mr. Giri garlands Swamiji, one of the many times he did so during Swamiji's visit. Mr. Giri tried to stay with Swamiji as much as possible, and when he wasn't there himself physically, he took all precautions to make sure that Swamiji was well taken care of and kept in good hands. Also in Uti, Swamiji visited this bhajan hall, where he was received so warmly.
Treat everyone as the Lord. Feel His presence in everyone. If you see the entire universe as a divine representation, you will start going out and serving everyone, irrespective of caste, creed, color, or country.
To a natural wildlife sanctuary where elephants are raised and trained, and many wild elephants roam freely. They arranged for a special treat, an elephant ride. We were really delighted when we passed by a newly born baby elephant with his mother.
The light is always within you, but it is up to you to make use of it. If you close your eyes, even though the light is there, you won't be able to see it. Awake, arise, keep the light always in front of you. Follow the light always. If you keep that light constantly in front of you to lead your way, you will always be the master.
Mr. Giri and Mr. Rao took Swamiji to a nearby herb farm, where he sampled some of the hundreds of varieties there. The highest point in Uti is known to be always covered with clouds, but all were surprised during Swamiji's visit when the clouds broke and you could see for miles around. On the way back, we passed by this building where Swamiji once conducted a nature cure camp with the well-known Dr. Bhikshu Swami for poor people, including many untouchables. Nearby is a beautiful small temple. At this spot, the great saint and mystic Sai Baba appeared to Swamiji and a few others in the form of a snake. They were meditating when the hooded cobra suddenly appeared at the center of the altar. They offered some flowers, and after some time he quietly left. The temple was erected to commemorate that event. The small farming village of Chettapalayam is Swamiji's birthplace, and here he spent his childhood. The visit here was incredible. For blocks ahead of Swamiji's family's house, hundreds and hundreds lined the road to catch sight of him. He could hardly move through the town, though several men tried to clear a way. Hands came in from all directions to touch his hands, his gown, his feet, his hair, with real reverence and devotion. Inside, the house has been turned into a pilgrimage center and spiritual meeting place. This was his first visit since the installation. There were so many people that the vast majority were forced to stand outside and watch as the fortunate ones came in to touch his feet and receive the holy ash. They kept coming for this blessing until finally Swamiji had to stop them so that the rest of the program could go on. In these very rooms, Swamiji ran and played as a small boy at his parents' feet. His father, Sri Kalyana Sundaram, was a well-respected and revered town leader and a talented Tamil poet. Due to his earnest religious piety and loving heart, Swamiji as a young boy was exposed to all the saintly and learned men who were always welcomed at his house. Members of the spiritual group Sanmarga Sangam sang some beautiful chants in Swamiji's honor, and a beautiful puja was worshipped at the altar. It was a truly great inspiration for us to see such deep respect and reverence shown to Swamiji in the very house of his birth.
Well, friends, I'm happy to see you again. I know you are all the great devotees of Lord Shiva and Lord Muruga. You are all Saivids. I see the holy ash smeared on your forehead. But please know that the significance of the holy ash is purity. So this purity should permeate in all your life, in your thoughts, words, and deeds.
Afterwards, Swamiji was taken outside to the nearby temple courtyard, where thousands had gathered to hear him speak in Tamil, their native tongue.
அன்பு பெருமக்களே, உங்களது இக்குதூகலமான வரவேற்பிற்கு எம் அனைவரது சார்பிலும் நன்றி தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறேன். இறைவன் உங்கள் எல்லோருக்கும் உடல்நலம், உளநலம், மனநலம், இறைநலம் ஆகிய சகல நலங்களையும் அருள்வாராக. வணக்கம்.
Leaving the next morning was difficult, as many still wanted to see and touch this holy man from their own village, whom they all remember so well. Back in Coimbatore at Mr. Giri's house, Swamiji was always surrounded by devotees anxious to get his blessings and hear his words. Early morning they would come and wait on the veranda for a chance to see or speak with him between his many programs. His visiting Coimbatore was delayed an extra day because of heavy rains and flooding. One relative, Karuntagiri, claimed it was the tears of them all thinking of his departure that held him there for one more day. Clear skies the next morning were met with mixed emotions, as once again Swamiji had to leave the presence of the beloved people of Coimbatore. In Bangalore, Swamiji spoke at the Divine Life Society. The children sang this beautiful chant for him, and it was an especially moving time for me, as one Indian woman came softly crying and holding on to my arm, told us how blessed we were to be so much in Swamiji's presence, and that we should never, never leave him. As always, Swamiji gave many public talks and satsangs, this one in a Krishna temple. At the home of Swamiji's host, Mr. Sitaram, a Pada Puja was performed by Swami Vidyananda Mataji. She's a long-time devotee of Swamiji's from Kandy, Ceylon, and several years ago she received the Holy Order of Sannyas, or monkhood, from Swamiji there.
Nataraja Satchidananda Murtaye Nishpravanjaya Shantaya Viralambaya Tejase Om Ghum Gurubhyo Namaha.
When you are in peace, you are in God. You are with God.
In nearby Mysore, we visited a temple to the Divine Mother. Swamiji made new friends near the famous Nandi bull. It's an old custom to pass under the front leg of Nandi. He is the guardian of the temple area. As a spiritual seeker, Swamiji had also spent much time at this ashram in Tiruvannamalai at the feet of the great saint Ramana Maharshi. He was there until just 7 days before he left his physical body. In the nearby town of Tiruvannamalai, we were fortunate enough to be there on the great Festival of Lights. Swamiji and disciples watched from the temple roof as thousands joined in the celebration. Chanting went on all day as many more thousands climbed to the top of the hill. As dusk nears, the deities are paraded through the courtyard. Preparations for a fire are made, awaiting the signal from the hilltop to be lit.